Hi, Dr. Taylor here again, and today we're going to go over genetics. What I want to do today is go more over the basics, give you more of a foundation of what we're looking at when we're looking at the genetic side of health. So whether you're a patient of ours or you want to become a patient at our clinic or you just want more information on a subject, this will give you a good foundation as far as what we're looking at, why we're looking at it, and how it makes sense as far as health. So when we're talking about genes, you get a copy from mom typically and a copy from dad. And how these are paired together is basically how things manifest in a person's body. Eye color, hair color, whatever you're looking at. Obviously, health-wise, we don't need to look at those aspects. We need to look at the different aspects and how they relate to health. So what they've done, with the Human Genome Project, is they've uncoded the human DNA. So when you're looking at human DNA, you're looking at 4 base nucleotides, A, T, G, C. And they all fit together in different combinations which express different genes. So when we're looking at these, we're looking at what's called the minor allele. So for our purposes, we're going to say our minor allele is T. So we're looking at a gene, and we're going to call this the red gene. So for the red gene, the minor allele is T. So basically, you don't want T to be in there. T doesn't happen a whole lot in the population. That's why it's the minor allele. So you look at the entire population of the Earth, you say this minor allele occurs in 5% of the population. Now let's say we break down that population into, maybe asthmatics, people with Parkinson's, neuropathy, fibromyalgia, whatever, specific issue you want to look at. So let's say people with fibromyalgia. So we're say, okay, we're going to look at the population of people with fibromyalgia, and in that population, this T minor allele actually occurs 25% or more. So a lot more than the general population. So then we can correlate and say there's something that goes on with this gene, especially with the T designation, the minor allele, that plays into or contributes to having the issue of fibromyalgia. So when you're looking at these things, like say, we're looking at T as being the causative factor. So you can have different combinations of how this works together. So you could have, we're just going to say A, like say it could be A, G, or C. But we're going to say A just for easy purposes here. So if you have no affected gene, no T, we're going to say you're A. So that means the gene's functioning at 100%. So you could be heterozygous, which means you have one affected copy, the T, and one unaffected copy, we're going to say the A. So you got that from either mom or dad, the affected gene, or the non-affected gene from either mom or dad. It can go either way as far as that goes. Or you can be homozygous, which means that you have the minor allele twice. So you got a bad or a affected copy from mom and an affected copy from dad. Now how these work together is the different combinations will work into different functionality of the gene itself. So what we'll do is we'll look at the MTHFR gene, just because we've already talked about it and there's a lot of research done on it specifically. So we're going to look at MTHFR C677T, which is just a specific part of the MTHFR gene. So if you have no issue, like say AA with the MTHFR, you'd have 100% functionality of the gene. Now, if you have a heterozygous issue with the MTHFR C677T, it's up to a 40% reduction in the efficiency of that gene. So that gene functionality is decreased by up to 40%. Now, if you have the homozygous, 2 minor alleles in relation to MTHFR itself, C677T, you have up to a 75% reduction in the functionality of that gene. So that's quite a big difference. So those are the things that we're looking at specifically to see how these combinations work together and gene functionality. So, a lot of people say, well, if I have a heterozygous issue or a homozygous issue, I have disease. Well, that's not true. All it means is it's not defective and it's not non-functioning. So it functions and it's not defective. It just means there's altered efficiency of the gene. So you either have an increased efficiency of the gene or a decreased efficiency of the gene, which is both bad, or you're lacking the regulatory mechanisms for that gene specifically, and that's where you get the alterations. So a good example is the BRCA gene, which got a lot of popularity, with recent issues. So that relates a lot to breast cancer. Now, just because you have the BRCA gene doesn't mean that you're going to develop breast cancer. It just means that you're a higher likelihood. So same thing with MTHFR. Like say whether you have no issue, you're heterozygous or homozygous, it relates to the higher likelihood if you're going to have an issue or not. But it doesn't mean you're going to have those particular diseases that are related to the issue. So this is where you see a lot of people that say, well, I'm born with this, or why things run in their family. But like I say, you can express these things differently, and you can change how they're expressed, and that's with the epigenetics, and that's what we talked about before, and that's why we talk about it a lot at our office. Epigenetics will dictate genetics. So what you're putting into your body will dictate how the gene actually functions. So, like say, diet will affect that. Nutritional status will affect that. Toxic load will affect that. Environmental influences like stress will affect that. So that's why we address all those things at our office as far as diet, what you should be putting into your body, whether you're looking at food sensitivity testing or just in general. Nutritional status, if we look at that with our functional nutrition, functional medicine aspect of practice, and toxic load, whether we're going to check heavy metals, pesticides, herbicides, whatever it might be, or hidden infections in the body that are all causing stress, which can alter gene functionality, or environmental influences like say stress, which we use emotional reflex technique to help get people past those emotional issues that can block healing. So we look at the whole thing. If you're just looking at the gene itself and you start putting in supplements to help this gene work better, you might not need it. Like say, epigenetics will dictate genetics, and that's why you have to work on all these other factors first to get the gene functioning like it's supposed to. So there's a lot of stuff that goes into this, and there's a lot of stuff you need to know before you just jump in. So I hope that helps.